Evening. It is September 24th at 6:30, and I'd like to open the school committee meeting. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote participation Zoom meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 19th, 2020. Since that time, unanticipated legal concerns relating to the open meeting law have been brought to our attention by the town clerk. These concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. One concern is that the chat function allows a parallel text conversation to a board's public meeting. Chat is essentially running commentary that is occurring but is not moderated or followed by the chair. All participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting participants join by phone and do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room which are not incorporated into the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants have equal access to this meeting. People that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you called in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone. So that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion, we ask the people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chair of the raised hands, and the chair will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute and state their name and address. After speaking, we request that the participant return their microphone back to mute. All right, we are in open meeting. We are going to adjourn into executive session with the intent to return to open session, hopefully around 7 p.m. The purpose of the executive session is for contract negotiation discussion. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session with the intent to return to open session for the purposes of discussing negotiating strategy.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All our votes will be roll call votes tonight while we're online. Brad?
Brad Austin, yes.
Justin?
Justin McCarthy, yes.
Timolin?
Timolin Rossius, yes.
Matt?
Matt Hunt, yes.
And Mike Fontella votes yes as well. We are now in executive session, and we will be back when we're done with that. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everyone. We did start our meeting at 6:30 and then immediately adjourned into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiation discussion. We concluded that executive session and are now back in open session. We will start with the rest of the agenda. We're going to start with the minutes from September 10th, 2020, and oath to bills and payroll.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from September 20th and oath to bills and payroll.
September 10th, you mean?
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. September 10th.
Second.
All right, a motion is made and seconded. I'll remind everyone that all our votes online are during Zoom meetings are roll call votes. So I'll start with Matt.
Matt Hunt, yes.
Timolin.
Timolin Rossius, yes.
Brad.
Brad Austin, yes.
Justin McCarthy. You're muted, buddy. Oh, I still can't hear you.
I can read lips. He said Justin McCarthy, yes.
We're going to have to get a ruling on that one, but we have a majority. Mike Fontella votes yes as well. All right, so we got the consent agenda. Hopefully Justin won't be muted for the whole meeting.
So Justin is not muted. I'm wondering if he needs.
It's on his end. It's his problem. Maybe he lost his voice. Too much opera in the shower? Yeah, exactly.
Like Carol Brady.
Yeah. Went away when he took off that hat.
He'll get back with us when he's ready. We are at the first section in the meeting for input from interested citizens. We'll have this opportunity, then we'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. We're also going to have an update on our HVAC study, and we will open the floor for public input during that as well for any questions that people have about that. But if there are any interested citizens who would like to speak before the school committee right now, please use the raise your hand function, and Dorothy will get you in front of us.
Mm-hmm. We don't have any raised hands right now.
Okay.
All set.
Very good. Under new business, we have one item that did not get on the agenda, but John Overcash, our food service director, would like to give an update. John?
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time this evening, and I know I'm not on the agenda. First, I want to thank the school committee and the superintendent and the admin, the whole admin group, for all their support they've provided to food service over the last 6 months. We all know it hasn't been an easy time, and we definitely appreciate it. All my staff do too. Also like to thank the school community as a whole and in its entirety, because they've been really great in supporting us as well. And the folks in the town, especially the Rotary, who stepped up to help us get meals out to senior citizens that were at risk. Okay, so following that, and that thanks comes not only from me, but it does come from my staff too. I wanted to take some time just to remind the community, the school community especially, that we're still serving grab-and-go meals. All the meals that we're serving in school and the grab-and-go, thanks to the USDA, are still free. We're not charging anybody for any meals right now, adults of course, but no students are being charged for any meals right now. And the grab-and-go program is still going strong. We're handing meals out on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 9:30 at the high school, the same place we've been doing it ever since March. We are taking a look at adding a second pickup time. We understand that 8 to 9:30 might not be conducive to everybody to be able to come and pick up meals and still get their kids started online, for those, especially those that are totally on remote. And we're taking a look at adjusting some times and seeing what we can do to better serve the community along those lines. Another point about the grab-and-go meals is they're not just for students that are attending Littleton Public Schools. We have students that go to Neshoba Tech that live in town, Parker Charter School. There might even be children that attend a private school but are doing remote learning and they're in town. So they're available to all students that live in town. And we worked really hard to get that word out through various media outlets, social media, newspaper, LCTV, and so forth. But I just want to take a moment and, remind everybody about that. And again, we are here to support all excuse me, all students from all families in town. One of the unique things that has happened over the last 6 months is the USDA instituted a farm to table or farm to families program. That was done in an effort to keep farmers solvent. The USDA has bought large quantities of produce and other items from farmers, and they've had it packaged into boxes. Most recently, we've had some very beautiful produce boxes that we've been giving to families as they came to pick up meals. And next week, we're supposed to start receiving a combination box that's going to have protein items, dairy items, and produce items in them to hand out to families. And that's all families. It's not just, I know some people think this is only for families that, may be in a special need, but this is for all families and all students in town. And we're even able to get some of that stuff to our senior citizens too. Like I said, the Rotary has been very helpful in getting meals out to some of our senior citizens. And that's actually it. Unless anybody has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for John? Yeah, Brad.
Not a question. I just want to say thanks to John and his staff. They've been great all summer. My children have really loved getting the treats, especially ice cream days. But also it's been a real treasure for the town. And I know it's helped a lot of people out. So thanks for all you've done.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Second that.
Yeah.
I just one other thing I wanted to point out is we are trying to get, we've asked the principals to include little bits of information in their weekly email blast that they send out at the end of every week. And we're going to continue to do that, especially if there are any changes, or just to help remind everybody that we're here and that we're here for them, and the program is going strong. So thanks again for letting me speak to you all tonight.
Right. Anybody else? No. John, I'd just like to say I appreciate you starting your update with thanks to everyone, but I feel that was very misplaced. We should be thanking you. We talked about how special it was to get everybody back in the building, last week. But in reality, there were some people that were in the building all spring and summer. There was one door that was always open, a couple cars in the parking lot up at the high school that opened right up to that cafeteria. You guys have been in there. You've been nonstop all spring and summer, and we greatly appreciate it, what you've done for the community. Brad's right. It helped. The food itself was important, but just the effort in knowing that there were people there that were ready to continue to support the community. You guys are on the front lines from the hop, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much for everything you've done, and hopefully we can get you back to normal at some point in time. And I know we're thinking like, wow, normal lunch operations. I can't believe I'm looking forward to that again, but yeah, we will get there. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Next, under new business, Dr. Clenchey is going to give us an update on school opening.
Thank you. And we're going to hear from the principals tonight as well. I'm happy to report to everybody that we had a very strong start to the beginning of the school year. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our staff for pulling together and all the hard work that they did to prepare themselves to greet our students on the first day back on September 16th. We've already had the opportunity to have in-person instruction with our cohorts for our hybrid model, both groups A and B. We have a remote learning program, K-5, and that has been going very well. So special thanks to everybody that again, pulled together. It was an enormous amount of work to make this happen. Our technology is working well, and the 10 days that we had prior to the start of the school year was extremely helpful in offering professional development to our staff and making sure that they were comfortable with the technology that they needed to use to implement the two models. At this time, I'm going to ask Principal Kane from Shaker Lane to give us some highlights of Shaker Lane's first week back.
How about Assistant Principal Rebecca Deacon? Will that do?
How about Assistant Principal Rebecca Deacon?
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, everybody. Mrs. Kane is attending something for her own children tonight for a little bit. She'll be joining us in a little bit. So that I don't leave anything out, I kind of just wrote something up that I'd just like to read, if that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep.
So, we are 7 days in for grades K-2. And all our kindergarten students have attended 4 full days in person and 2 remote days. Our transitional students have attended all of their days in person with 2 remote days. We have had, like Dr. Clenchey said, both cohorts of A and B, grades 1 and 2, come. They've had a chance to attend school and log in remotely. Preschool began this past Monday. And that is always a joy to see those little tiny friends getting out of the car, even with their little masks on. If any of you have ever having a bad day, you just come to Shaker Lane and walk into preschool, because it's just where magic is. So all of our fully remote students have successfully logged on with their teachers for all 7 days. Arrival and dismissal have been pretty smooth overall. Few hiccups along the way. But that hasn't stopped us. Our kids are tolerating and very vigilant about mask wearing. I think that's one of the things we are most impressed with at Shaker Lane. I know some people doubted whether the little friends could wear a mask or tolerate it. And in the days we have been there, I have not asked one child to please put on their mask. I might ask them to just, fix it a little bit. But they must have been practicing all summer long, because they are rocking it. They are using their airplane arms in the hallway so that they keep their social distance. So if you ever come to visit us and you're wondering why kids are kind of walking sideways with their arms out, it's because they're being taught, like, this is the amount of space you have to walk. And I actually saw a group of kids leaving the building today, and they didn't even need their airplane arms out yet. They already have that visual in their brain of how spaced apart they need to be. We had staff before school started go through the entire building. I don't know if Brad or Justin, you saw it when you were there, but we had staff glue tape. Dr. Clench, you don't have a heart attack. We taped them to the floor. Paper shakies every 6 feet on the floor in every hallway on both sides of the hallway, so that the little friends know where to stand when they're walking in line, and just to get that visual image in their brain of what does 6 feet look like. That was the best decision we ever made. So that is going amazing. They're following the arrows, staying on the side. Steve ordered us a whole bunch of decals that we have placed in the buildings. Those are working wonderfully. They are rocking it with following all the rules and guidelines that we have had to put in place, whether they're in the classroom, the cafeteria, outside. The amount of times that we're asking these kids to wash their hands and sanitize. And honestly, I haven't heard one complaint. So for little kids to be able to do this every single day is pretty amazing. It feels amazing to be back at Shaker Lane. We're happy to have everybody back. I would like to say that everybody says it takes a village to make things happen. And this could not be more true. Opening this building was no small feat, and we successfully met it challenge after challenge with a positive attitude and a plan. And we are really thankful that all the hard work that everybody put into this, it really did make a difference. The hard work of the teaching and support staff is unprecedented between professional development in those first 10 days of school, which were imperative to what we're doing today. These teachers were learning all new technology, a new way to teach, helping work out all kinds of kinks, pivoting with last minute changes, and we knew that there were many. They completely rocked it. Their flexibility, innovation, perseverance, and I say tireless dedication. And I know we as an admin council have talked about that a lot. Their determination and commitment is like no other that we have ever seen before. And they really are the backbone of why this is happening today. Our tech team, amazing. I think Julie Lord and Brian O'Neill live at Shaker Lane, literally. They have answered every tech question, every tech emergency with a positive attitude and an answer, and a quick answer. They have been there for our teachers. I can't tell you, they are on the fly all the time fixing, and they just are amazing. Custodial staff who have worked tirelessly, I mean, moving endless piles of furniture out of classrooms into storage, just commendable. And all the new cleaning guidelines that they're expected to learn and follow. It's pretty amazing. And they are on top of it every day in our building. They are coming around and they're wiping handles and high touch surfaces. And every time we turn around, they are cleaning something to make it a safe place for everybody to be. And you know, it just goes on and on about how whenever there's challenges, everybody steps up. And we are certainly making it happen at Shaker Lane. To our families at Shaker Lane, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your support and patience and dedication to our plan is amazing. And this would not be possible without all you're doing at home to make what we're doing at school possible. We do ask that you continue, obviously, to be vigilant, monitor your children for any COVID-19 possible symptoms, and contact the school nurse if you think there's a concern. But other than that, students are happy. I've asked them the other day, I took a poll in the cafeteria, you know, thumb up if you're happier at school or happier at home. And only one kid put their thumb up that they were happier at home. So that's a good thing, right? They love being back. Even though it's different, they really do love being back. And for all of us here and all of us at home, it's been a long 6 months, right? And to see kids every day and happy, pretty awesome. So, you know, we've had some glitches, we've had some challenges. I think one of the biggest things is for the little friends and no school committee, when you visited Shaker Lane, we talked about that live streaming in, and Dr. Clinch and I have had some conversations. We're still working through that, right? Because they're young. And so we're hoping with time, as kids get comfortable and teachers are comfortable, that gets a little bit easier with the live streaming in from home. So the teacher's trying to really focus on the kids in front of her and focusing on the kids at home. So that's something that we're going to continue to work on, and just continue to work out all those kinks. And when there's a problem, you know, we'll have a plan and we'll move forward. So all in all, I think we're off to a good start.
All right.
Thanks, Rebecca. And Russell Street School.
Would it be cheating to say everything Rebecca said? No. I'll cheat a little and say everything Rebecca said. I wanted to thank the teachers, the staff, our nurse, our front office staff, the kitchen staff, the custodians, the bus drivers, the tech team, our resource officer, my assistant principal, Andrea. Everybody, just as Rebecca said, everybody was, pretty amped up last week, excited to get started on Wednesday and certainly on Thursday, when kids were coming in person. But it was really great to see the kids. Teachers were really enthusiastic on Wednesday when we went around to the classes. To see all the kids on the screen was really great. Better to see them in person on Thursday. I was really pleased that even though we had traffic stretched out into the street, our resource officer came by to help us out. We had all of our students in the building on the first day of school by 8:11. School starts at 8:05, so 8:11 wasn't too bad. And the following day on Monday with a larger cohort we got in the building by 8:14. So we are working that out. By today, I think we had everybody in by 8:05 today. So I appreciate the patience in the car drop-off line. We're really encouraging families to let their students get out anywhere along the yellow painted area. I know that's always, people want to drive right up to the front door, but we're encouraging parents to let their students out. There's a lot of staff outside. So that has been getting smoother over the days. I have to remember we've only been doing it for 5 days in person now. So our safety protocols at Russell Street, everything that we put in place has worked beautifully, which I'm really pleased to say. We're fortunate to have 4 outside areas with chairs 6 feet apart. And we have used those for break areas and for mass break areas and also for our eating areas. Thank goodness, all but one kind of chilly day, the weather has cooperated. We're also fortunate to have the track area and the turf field area so kids can go and run around. Even though the sprinklers did go off on the track one day, we only had one slightly wet student. That was okay. And so we've really have done quite well. If Andrea were here, I'm sure she would agree with me that it's really fun to go into the classrooms in the morning during morning meeting and see the students sitting in the classroom and then look on the screen and see the kids at home. I've had to figure out in every classroom where I have to stand to wave good morning to the kids that are on the screen. But teachers who were worried at the beginning about being able to engage 2 sets of kids at the same time, that was gone after the first day. Teams of teachers got together and just really talked about the pros and cons of what they were doing. And it is like a well-oiled machine by today, which is really amazing since we just started last week. So really kudos to everybody. And, again, we appreciate the patience and the hard work of the families at home as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. And middle school, Principal Everhart.
Thank you, Dr. Clinchie. If I'd have thought about this, I would have wore a tuxedo. This is turning into like an award show with all the thank yous for everybody. So I would like to thank, first of all, I'd like to thank our educators who are working so hard, really hard. This is a whole new style, and I think it's harder for our veteran teachers than it is our new teachers because they're having to unlearn years of one style or multiple styles and try to do something new on the fly. They're really crushing it. And I know they're feeling it. And I just want them all to know that I'm so appreciative of the work that they're doing because it shows every time we walk into a classroom, the level of dedication and preparedness that's there. I want to thank our custodians who have done an amazing job of keeping the building clean and cleaning desks and cleaning desks and cleaning desks and handrails and everything. It's really been quite amazing. Our front office staff who has shouldered the load trying to take care of all the little things that you think you planned for, but you never really actually realize until all of a sudden kids and teachers are there and you realize, oh man. And want to thank our families who have been so supportive. I've received dozens of emails over the last 10 days, and it is amazing the level of support and patience and flexibility that our Littleton middle school families have for what we're doing. And I can't say enough about how great that is. We are doing really, really well. The anticipation, I think, was built up to the point where we just didn't quite know what to expect. And once the buses showed up and the kids got off, I have to say that I think the most heartwarming and incredible part of what I saw over the last week were people pulling together, families, students, educators, teaching assistants, office staff, admin team, all working together to make this thing happen. And that right there is the definition of community. Everybody pulling in that same direction for a shared end. And it was so impressive to see that. I'm never going to forget that for the rest of my administrative career. That right there, I think, was the defining moment of our year. And so it's something that I look forward to seeing throughout the rest of the year. Even though we're tired and we're spent, I think we're starting to find those little bits of joy, the kind that, reinvigorate and re-energize. And so I'm hoping over the next few weeks to really see that as we improve in our practice and improve in our logistics. I look forward to a really, really great year. I'm very excited to be at LMS.
Thank you, Jason. High school, Dr. Harrington.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ditto. It is across the board here. Rebecca started us off in a great way, kind of complimenting and thanking, expressing appreciation for so many people. And thank you to Littleton families. Thank you to the students for being so cooperative and so supportive. A very difficult time. And I'll just continue the award show, Jason. Why not? There's a lot of shout outs and they're all so well deserved. And this is our moment. It'd be remiss not to do it, to make sure that we thank so many people. And I hope we don't, like they say at the Oscars, I hope I didn't miss anyone on my list, pull it out on a piece of paper. But I will say, it's been great seeing students and teachers back on campus, making the best of a very difficult situation. I think we started off tonight well by expressing our appreciation to John Overcash and the whole CAF team. Core value is one of our core values at LHS is teamwork, and collaboration and teamwork have been paramount through all of this preparation. It's been so wonderful to see all the hard work over so many months come to fruition with so far a great start, considering everything to the school year. Huge shout out not only to the CAF team, but the tech team, the custodial staff. And I'll be brief as I go through my list because my colleagues from the other schools have expressed their appreciation in a really robust way. And I think, it's a shared sentiment across the district at all buildings. I also want to especially give a shout out to my assistant principal, Keith Camo, who's worked so hard over the last few months for helping to prepare the building behind the scenes and getting everything just right. We've worked closely together for a number of years now, and his support and participation throughout this has been critical. So thank you, Keith. I also want to give a shout out to our admin team. And by the way, we did have fire drills. By statute, we're required to have fire drills. So shout out to LFD, Littleton Fire Department, the Deputy Chief, Tom Clancy, as well as Chief Blazinski, for helping us to have a very smooth fire drills. Went seamlessly. And we weren't quite sure how that would all work, but it went really well. And both cohorts have been through their typical September fire drills. I guess, the other thing that's sort of, obvious is the positive attitude that is just being, and the flexibility. Jason said it well, patience, flexibility, positive attitude in an extremely extraordinary time. It goes without saying that we're going to pull together and get through this as best we can. I also want to make sure I express my appreciation. We had a very positive faculty meeting this past week. Faculty with, giving shout outs to each other, but they're making the best of a difficult situation, implementing new instructional technology, simultaneously teaching students who are remote and in person. Huge challenge. It's not easy. And we recognize it and we're getting better at it each day. I also want to thank, or note it, I guess, thank so many parents who have, Jason, I think, mentioned this too. So many parents have sent notes or emails or expressions of support to us as an admin team that kind of carries us through difficult work. So thank you. a couple of notable things that were worth seeing on the campus that are sort of inspirational and give me hope as we go through these few weeks is seeing the band today play outside in beautiful weather. They were around the flagpole. Mrs. Bridge had brought them outside. They were playing wonderfully. They seemed to be having a good time together too, and making, again, the best of a very difficult situation. I saw athletes on the field this past week, running and enjoying each other's company. That's something we miss. We take it for granted. We kind of notice how we take it for granted. Again, making the best of a very difficult situation. And thank you to Littleton community for helping us have a successful start to the school year.
Thanks. All right, thank you. Dr. Clenching.
It would also be helpful if we could hear from our Director of Curriculum, Mrs. Steele, and our PPS Director, Ms. Snow, and have them talk about their first week of back to school, so to speak.
Sure, so I can start off first. I think the one thing, and I think John mentioned it, the one that I will shout out to thanks is our admin team. Our principals and assistant principals have worked really hard all summer long, and they deserve a big shout out and thanks too during all of this. So in addition to everyone that they mentioned, I think they themselves also need an appreciation. So thank you all for that. In the first week, it has been so great to see staff and students back and in the building and enjoying in conversations that I've had with both staff and students. People are really happy to be back. I had a conversation with one high school student who said that it was kind of a bit of a wake-up call to be back and actually have like work to do and assignments to do, and she wasn't complaining. She was like, "It's kind of nice. It's just different." And so it's nice to have these conversations with our students who are back engaging with school and with their learning. One specific example that I will share. And this happens to be an example from the middle school, but I could give you multiple examples from all 4 of our buildings. I was walking through one day within this first week, and I happened to stop by a class, and the teacher was up front, had the screen with the remote students right in front of the teacher, and then the in-person learning students right there. And he was just seamlessly going back and forth between remote students answering questions, in-person students answering questions. And it was like, I stopped and just kind of, I think I had to pick my jaw up. It was just so seamless and this beautiful interaction that was happening. And so I think it's a credit to our staff who are making these things happen, but also to our students, because not a single one of them missed a beat either. And so I think it was really just a great example of good things that are happening. And a lot of work is going into it. And so I think overall we're off to a great start, and I've been really happy to have conversations and see everyone back and to see the impressive work that's happening in our schools.
Thank you, Beth.
So I can definitely say samesies to all of that. I've been blown away by all of what I've seen this past week, and I will definitely echo what Beth said about the principals and the assistant principals. They are truly like the unsung heroes. I think of all the hats that they typically wear in a day and how it's, quadrupled exponentially, all of the roles they've had to take on, and they've just done it with grace and effortlessly and with an incredible attitude. So I've been so impressed by that. From my first week with school back, just as I feel like I won't forget the end of the day on March 12th, I'm never going to forget the feeling that I had on September 17th when I was getting out of my car in the morning at Shaker Lane, and I was walking up and those windows were open and I heard the voices of teachers teaching and kids, and all of those sounds were just amazing. And I'm never going to forget that feeling. I think that when I think in terms of just special education and what we have to do on a typical day, all of the different things and how it's such a fluid, it is so fluid and there's so many moving parts typically. It's been great to see how solution focused everybody has been, and we've had to really make a lot of adaptations to the accommodations and modifications that we're delivering. We've had to figure out ways to deliver services differently depending on models that were selected. We've had to kind of make changes on the fly. So I think that the special education staff have also been incredible. And I think as we continue to kind of work through the kinks that are, inevitably going to be there, and they would be there in a non-pandemic world, their attitude has been so student-centered, and that's been really nice to see. It's been great to see how hard everybody's been working to try to chip away at this backlog that we have of evaluations that weren't able to be done back in the spring. We've really prioritized and focused on our little ones who are transitioning in from early intervention so that we can kind of get them into the schools and service. So there's been a lot of headway made on that, which has been great. And I definitely appreciate how patient and flexible and understanding the parents have been, and that they've been very communicative in sharing their input and their feedback, because we don't know what we don't know. And so if we don't have that input, we're not able to kind of make those adjustments. So that's been pretty great too. So we're able to kind of continue to improve as we go along.
Thank you, Lynn. Reflecting on the last 3 months, I can tell you with significant certainty that this was a real test of leadership for every district in the nation, and we were certainly no exception. We had a lot of great conversations. We were determined to develop 3 learning models that we're going to ensure that our students are well served throughout the school year. We had certainly trials and tribulations along the way, but we never lost sight of what was important, and that was to ensure that our students continue to have a good education in Littleton Public Schools. I don't think there's any one of us that at times even remembered what day it was. It just was 3 months that were somewhat of a blur, and we just kept going 7 days a week. And the reward really came on September 17th when we saw the buses pull up, our staffs in school, and our students coming into our schools. It just made everything worth what we did, and we're very, very excited. We realized that we're going to continue to learn throughout the year, but I am just so impressed with the leadership team and our staff. It takes everybody to make something like this work. This is not an easy task, and we put everything we had into it, and we're definitely reaping the benefits of all the hard work. We will continue to reflect and assess what we're doing, and we are excited about this school year, and we're just ready and willing to make sure that we do everything that we can to have every student have a successful experience with us. This could not have happened without the dedication of our staff, the support of our school committee, and also the support of our community. So thank you.
All right. Any school committee members would like to ask questions or make comments on any of that? Yep, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just so nice to hear all this. First of all, I missed you last week, so it's good to be back together. And given the award show vibe, I feel like I should ask Mr. Everhart who designed his outfit, but I'll refrain from that. I just want to say thanks. I really appreciate all of the work y'all have put into this. And it's really nice to hear and to see all the good hard work paying off. I have a question for Ms. Deacon and Ms. Kane, especially, but also probably Ms. Temple. From my perspective, it always seemed that the lower elementary and the elementary schools were going to be the toughest for this. You're teaching kids how to double click and do things as well as trying to learn. You already mentioned, Ms. Temple, about how teachers are helping each other. We're kind of crowdsourcing this. Is it too early to get a sense of how the kind of teaching and learning is actually happening? And if the remote will be possible with kids that young? Because I think that still remains my biggest concern, is that just the kids are almost too young to do some of this.
I'll go first this time.
All right, go ahead, Cheryl. I don't, I think our kids are pretty tech savvy by the time they get into the 4th and 5th grade, certainly. I know I saw a tweet today from one of our remote teachers in 4th grade saying that her students had all earned some kind of a license for the things that they learned on the computer, the different things like double clicking and how to drag something and, do all of the things that probably I don't know how to do, but those are the kinds of things that they have to kind of embed in the lesson, like you're saying, so the kids can be active on the computers. I think the biggest challenge that people are just trying to adjust for is the amount of times kids can be on the screen, and we talked about that. That is some feedback that we've gotten from parents to say like it's just really hard for them to keep their child engaged or at the screen. And I think, on the first couple of days we had, teachers would text me or email and say, this student was there and now they're not. And so a lot of, we made a lot of, emails and calls on the first days, and we really just encourage families, parents to work with teachers around coming up with accommodations for that. I think our schedule is one that's really good with breaks built in. They're encouraging students to use timers, set the timer for 10 minutes and come back. And so that, I heard a bit of that on Wednesday and Thursday of last week and not a lot this week. So as kids are getting used to it, perhaps they hadn't been sitting for long periods of time even before. And so, for the most part, we're working through those bits and pieces of kids just getting used to being back. Teachers are being very accommodating about, when assignments are due, when work needs to be done. We're really kind of ease back into what we're asking kids to do.
Actually, Charles, on that note, I've had parents come up to me just to make people aware and be cognizant of and state, the kids that are online for 6 hours a day and then have had assignments that have taken 2 to 3 hours at the middle school and high school after that. So being on a computer screen for 9 hours a day, I think it's just something that we should look at and make sure that the kids we're thinking about that when we're making our assignments and what's appropriate and to ease them back in. I know my son was on several hours after his classes got out doing work. So.
Yeah, at Russell Street, we really talked a lot about having trying to recreate what would happen in a classroom if everybody was in person. So when the teacher, gives an assignment, that group of students, the kids in person might start working on that, and then the teacher can focus on the kids that are on the screen and get them started. And so they're kind of doing that back and forth. So kids have short periods of time to do work, and really I have not heard anyone over these 7 days say that their child had a lot to do in terms of homework assignments. That's a good thing for me to hear you say, so I make sure to check on it, but that hasn't been a concern that has been expressed at Russell Street to this point.
No, the one people I've talked to have been mostly at the middle school and high school level.
Yeah. So, Brad, I can talk a little bit about Shaker Lane. I think, we all know that, like Brad said, we have the very littles in the district. So, I think it's hard. I think children developmentally, right, at Shaker Lane, they require so much teacher attention. Especially, I know our kindergarten kids, we have our full remote kids, so the teachers can dedicate their full attention to those, group of fully remote kids at home. And then our in-person kindergarten kids, so they don't have that live streaming in kindergarten, which we're very thankful for, because, they have anywhere from, 15, 16, 17 kids in a classroom. So I think that would be really difficult. And then you think about our transitional kids, they don't have that either. And then you move up to your first graders, and people think, first graders, but we have to remember these kids haven't been in school since March. So, I mean, they were in school, don't get me wrong, but they haven't, had the expectations that they have now. And they're really babies. I mean, they're young, some of these kids haven't even turned 6 years old yet. And so our teachers are in a difficult spot, right? They want to give the kids in front of them as much of their attention as they can, but at the same time, they feel like they want to give the kids at home the opportunity to live stream in. So, you know, we started out with very specific times during the school day. And we talked about this when you visited Shaker Lane, that the kids at home would live stream in. And I think what's happening is some of the teachers are feeling, well, it's harder to log off of Google Meet. So I'm just going to leave it open a lot of the day. And they feel that, again, it's their dedication. They feel like they are so dedicated even to the kids at home in this hybrid model. They're leaving their Google Meets open, and the kids have the opportunity to come in if they're working independently at home, to come in, ask a question, get some help from the classroom teacher. And that is by all means, you know, the teacher comfort. And I'm not saying everybody is doing that, but some people feel, you know, they want the kids to kind of be part of it all day. What's happening is the teachers are also feeling a little bit guilty that, you know, well, I'm not giving the kids in front of me as much time. So it's all about balance, right? And Dr. Clinch and I had a really nice conversation about it. And we're really hoping that with time, just like with everything, that things will even out a little bit. I can honestly see teachers seem maybe a little less frazzled than they were last week, but I you know, I'm a very honest person, and I definitely think that it is a challenge at Shaker Lane for our little friends, for the teacher to be focusing on the kids in front of them, and they're only there 2 days a week, and so we want to give them, you know, that undivided attention, and then having the kids live stream in from home. So, and we're very cognizant of screen time too. Matt, I know you're talking about that a lot. We're really trying with that, especially with the young friends, of not having them on that screen for hours on end. So, you know, we're working through it. We're doing the best that we can right now. We're going to continue to have conversation with teachers and really formulate the best plans moving forward. So.
Thank you very much.
Rebecca, can I jump in on that?
Sure.
Just a personal observation from what I've heard from others is that I think it might be beneficial to have the grades as a team work together and deliver sort of a similar opportunity for students across multiple classrooms, because and I don't want to downplay everyone's effort, because
no, I know.
We often hear like there's no sense in reinventing the wheel, but the reality is you all did have to reinvent the wheel, and you've done a very good job so far. But when we have some teachers leaving their Google meetings open the entire day, and there's opportunity for students to be engaged, and you have other students that they literally get shut down for as many as 3 hours at a time, and they don't have an opportunity to engage with their teacher, it feels like we're not delivering the same, you know, we're not allowing the same playing field across the grades. So I would just, and again, it's not that we're not doing a good job, because we are doing a great job, and we only need to try to get better, because again, it's all about the delivery of the curriculum and the student experience. I would just ask that as we continue to develop this plan, because it's not, one of the things you said was they feel guilty about the kids at home versus the kids and the student. I want to reiterate that it is one class, and the kids in the class and the kids at home, they're part of the same class, and they need to provide equal opportunity for instruction every single day.
100%. And I think, Justin, part of that must come down to comfort level, right? So one teacher's comfort level, perhaps, and I totally understand what you're saying, and we'll make sure that these teams are all on that same page, whatever that might be, because we have heard that recently too. But I think maybe it comes down to a little bit of teachers' comfort level, maybe their expertise, maybe how long they've been teaching, as far as, oh, I'm going to leave that meet open, you know, but I hear what you're saying. It has to be equitable. Absolutely.
So can I just jump in? Because Justin, to my understanding, the first grade team is leaving theirs open and second grade team is not. If there's a discrepancy amongst the team, we can look into that, but that wasn't my understanding amongst the team. So there might not be vertical alignment, but the horizontal alignment is there.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? John Harrington, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just want to chime in and respond. Thank you for, Matt in particular, for expressing concerns about the screen time issue. That is something we have discussed over many months about as we rolled this out. All the affirmations and appreciations have been acknowledged and been, profusive tonight. So I think, there's a lot to be proud of and a lot to be happy about and celebrate at this point, having been able to get to where we are today. But we went into this and we still have a mindset of continuous improvement. And there's going to be a lot of adjustments along the way. And so we welcome the feedback regards to, specific adjustments we might need to make in departments or in specific classrooms as it relates to managing screen time. It was a huge concern throughout the task force meetings about how do we launch a very robust, rigorous learning experience for students, at the same time not overdo it on the screens. So I appreciate the feedback and look forward to helping to mitigate the amount of screen time that is, if that's been a negative experience for some people.
Thanks, John. And believe me, predominantly what I've heard has all been very positive about the first 7 days of school. That was just something that had been mentioned to me by more than one person. So I did want to bring it up, but I know that you're looking into it, and just like I said, just put it on there and have it on the back burner when you're thinking about how we want to do this. If we want to, say, English and history assigned one day and then math and science assigned a different day of the week, something like that, however you want to work it out, but just something to think about.
All right. I just looked at my own comments. I appreciate the enthusiasm that everybody evinced tonight. It's clear that that was important to everyone, and the joy that everybody is feeling about being back in school. I think it's great to hear it. I think that maybe that might wear off after a time. I think the euphoria of getting back may wear off, and then we're going to face the stark reality that this is not a normal school year, and it's not going to be as beneficial as it would be if we were in normal operating mode. I think that we've been able in this very short term to take advantage of some of the inherent benefits that Littleton has. We're small, we're flexible, our technology platform was in place. A lot of other districts or communities weren't as well positioned as we were. So I appreciate the fact that everybody's enthusiastic. I think we're benefiting, though, from our unique situation. I appreciate what Dr. Clenchey said, and Dr. Harrington just reiterated it. The reflection and assessment, I think, is going to be crucial as we get farther into the school year. And I don't mean a lot farther. I think that, by a month in, we need to have another specific, more specific update on how curriculum is being delivered, where the challenges are. And I think that our students and families need to be a big part of that. I think we need to do another whether it's a survey or some other outreach where we're getting direct feedback from them, so that can inform the reflection and assessment that we need to do in order to make sure. I know that the principals talked about, especially at the lower levels, there are some challenges that will be smoothed out over time, but we just want to make sure that we understand the challenges and that we're not making assumptions based on being on one side of the screen, so to speak. And I appreciate the fact that we have so many school committee members that are living this right now at their houses, but we also need to get to other community members. I know we'll do it. I just want to make sure that we're talking about it and that it'll be sooner rather than later. I mean, we can't be in too much of a hurry. We do need to have some baseline to work off of. But again, I appreciate the enthusiasm. I think we're off to as good a start as we could have hoped for, given the circumstances and the hand we've been dealt. And I appreciate everyone doing as well as they can, given the circumstance to start out. So thank you for that. All right, next on the agenda, short item, there's an MASC, Mass Association of School Committees and Mass Association of School Superintendents Joint Conference, November 6, 2020. We have had members participate in these types of conferences in person. I'm not sure that that's going to be an option this year. However, there is an opportunity conceivably to vote on things that are brought forward at this meeting, at the annual business meeting. And in order to participate in those presentations and debates and votes, we need to have someone nominated or appointed as an official delegate. So, and we need to do that by October 16th Is there anybody who would like to, and I'll just say that being appointed our delegate doesn't mean you actually have to do anything. It's just if we have someone appointed, then we have the flexibility if we want to participate. So if there's anybody that would like to volunteer to be our delegate at the MASC-MASS Joint Conference on November 6th.
And Chairman Fontanella, it will be virtual?
Yeah, it will be virtual. So you don't get to go to the Cape this year, but you still get to participate if you want to. Anybody?
Can we revisit this at another meeting when we check our calendars?
Yeah, that's fine. We have to submit it by October 16th, so that's fine.
We'll meet 5 times between now and then. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we will put this back on the agenda. If anybody knows that it opens up in their calendar and thinks they want to do it, please send an email to me and Dr. Clenchy, and we'll put this back on the agenda and get it straightened out. All right.
Sounds like Brad's the front runner.
Brad's the front runner.
Not it.
Right. Everybody takes one step back except Brad. That means he took one step forward.
I've made that drive before, so they can suck it up and go on a virtual meeting.
All right. Next on the agenda is a presentation on our HVAC study. We have a guest tonight, Ken Beck, who's the principal at BLW Engineering. I believe he is the B in BLW Engineering. Ken's firm came in and did an assessment of all the HVAC systems in all 4 of our buildings. His full report, which is sort of building by building, each building got its own report. There's a lot of commonality in the reports, but each one separately evaluates because there are some variances in the types of systems across the schools because they've been built and updated and modified at different points over time. But those full reports are in our packet. That packet will be available online for anybody that wants to go up and get it and take a detailed look at it. But Ken is here tonight to give us a summary and then to answer any questions we have. And we will also open it up to public input if anybody has questions that Ken can answer or questions for the school committee or the administration on the HVAC systems. We'll definitely have public input for that. So at this point, I would like to introduce Ken Beck. And Ken?
Thanks, Mike. As Mike mentioned, I'm Ken Beck, principal of BLW Engineers. We are consultant engineers specializing in HVAC, plumbing, fire protection, and electrical systems design. The town engaged my firm to do an engineering evaluation of the 4 schools. Our evaluation included walking the school to confirm the system type, review the building documentation, determine the system capabilities, and evaluating the system's capabilities for compliance with the published guidelines for the reopening of the schools during the pandemic. Those publications included ASHRAE, which is the American Society of Heating and Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Engineers, and the state of Massachusetts. All the publications allow for 2 paths for ventilation compliance: the air changes per hour method or the air flow per occupant method. Ventilation air can be achieved by outdoor air, MERV 13 filters, portable HEPA filtration, or any combination of the 3. The Mass Teachers Association guidelines recommended 20 CFM per occupant, and a more stringent Brookline white paper recommended 32 CFM per occupant. CFM is cubic feet per minute, just so everyone knows. My reports reference the more stringent value of 32 CFM per occupant. Based on the individual school evaluation, we made recommendations on how the system should be operated and how the spaces should be occupied. The recommendations were made in 2 different tiers. Tier 1 recommendations are what should be done immediately in terms of system operation and the proposed space occupancies. And Tier 2 recommendations are those that may be required if there were spaces that needed to be operated differently in the short term for immediate school occupation and may require supplemental measures that would need to be implemented prior to the heating season. Littleton is fortunate in that their school HVAC systems are all less than 20 years old and were installed in compliance with the latest building codes. Based on the code required ventilation for the classrooms, the normal smaller classroom sizes for the Littleton student population, and the hybrid model for even smaller classrooms, the classrooms will have about 2 to 3 times the code required ventilation per occupant, and the ability to meet the most stringent requirements for most spaces without the additional Tier 2 provision. So in conclusion, your schools are in general in very good condition for reoccupation, and as long as we're maintaining the Tier 1 recommendation, we are going to be very, very good going forward.
All right, thanks, Ken. Before we open it up for input from and questions from the school committee, I would just like to talk a little bit about, I looked at the report, and we've been talking a lot about HVAC throughout the summer, and we did a presentation of our own. We had our own contractor go through the buildings and take a look at them and make some recommendations, and we've talked about those. And then Ken's report, BLW Engineering's report, has other recommendations, many of which are similar, if not the same, as the ones that we had already contemplated or had discussed when we were talking about this summer. For instance, BLW Engineering suggests in their Tier 1 program that we increase our filtration levels in both the rooftop and classroom units. We were already in the midst of doing that, and we will continue to do that. The only thing that's slowing us down is the commercial availability of the higher filtration, higher rated filters, but we are backfilling those as we go. Another recommendation from BLW was cleaning and replacing the filters on a more frequent basis. We were already committed to doing that and working with the contractor to have him on site more often to do exactly that. Another Tier 1 recommendation was increasing the number of hours that the HVAC systems run, specifically both before and after the school is occupied each day. We are already in the midst of doing that. Talks about operating the buildings in occupied mode, so having the HVAC systems running during our cleaning, both on the nights and on weekends. We are doing that. The BLW Tier 1 recommendations are to run the classroom units at maximum outdoor air capability, which we are doing, especially now in this time of year when we can do that without putting the actual unit ventilators at risk of having cold air run through them. BLW Engineering talks about keeping windows and doors open as much as conditions warrant, which we are already implementing. They talk about increasing the regular maintenance of the systems, which we have done. And BLW Engineering has another recommendation that we monitor all HVAC systems on a continual basis. Our custodial staff is definitely engaged in that right now. And then talking about the Tier 2 recommendations, those were things that we are definitely going to look at and evaluate and consider additional measures to take as we get towards the colder weather that will preclude using open windows and make us more reliant on the HVAC units themselves. So those recommendations are in those reports that are in the packet. People can take a look at them, but I just wanted to reiterate that a lot of it is already things that we are compliant with in terms of the recommendations that BLW Engineering is making. And we will look at the ones that maybe we aren't doing yet and think about how that might be beneficial given our circumstances as the year unfolds. So at this point, I would ask if any school committee members have any questions or comments for Ken Beck.
No questions. Just want to say thanks, Ken, for taking time to do that.
he got paid.
I know, I was going to say, but still.
Yes.
Thanks.
I appreciate though, Matt. You're right. Ken did get in there on a very short turnaround time. We appreciate him making himself available to Littleton so quickly. We really didn't have to wait very long to have him on site, and we do appreciate that. So, any other questions or comments, Brad?
Yeah. Thanks, Ken. Just when I think I understand HVAC systems, now I have to learn about CFMs. So forgive me if this is a basic question. If I heard you correctly, there are kind of two standards that people use. One is 20 cubic feet per minute, and the other you said was 32, which has been adopted by Brookline or one other school system. Can you tell us a little bit more about these standards, and just did I hear you correctly that ours are currently capable of providing the 32, the much higher standard?
So current codes require ventilation per person in a classroom.
Of what, I'm sorry?
Ventilation per person in a classroom. So right now, the current code, when we design a classroom building, code requires 10 CFM a person plus 0.12 CFM per square foot, which works out for a typical classroom about 14 CFM per person. So there's different standards are being published in guidelines to comply with with the reopening of the school during the pandemic. So the first one I referenced was the Mass Teachers Association guidelines that came out, I think, in mid-August. Their recommendation was 20 CFM per person.
So that's the teachers union saying.
That was the Teachers Association of Massachusetts.
Okay. Yeah. And the 14, I'm sorry, these may be dumb questions, but the 14 would be this time last year before the pandemic. Okay.
Exactly. And so there was a white paper presented to the I think it's town of Brookline, I think, for the reopening their schools, where they had a lot of professionals come together and put this white paper together. And their recommendation was for 32 CFM per occupant. So it's even more stringent than the Mass Teachers Association. And, a lot of the school systems that we've been working with and doing these types of evaluations have been kind of pointing to that Brookline white paper. So that's why I've decided to use that more stringent guideline in terms of evaluating the systems in the schools here. So when I did evaluate them, in my recommendations, I know what your occupancies in every space, every type of space in the building and in each building is at 32 CFM per person, so that you know how you can occupy those spaces and still maintain that most stringent guideline. If you want to occupy the space differently, you can do other things in terms of adding supplemental HEPA filters. Like as I mentioned before, HEPA filtration, whatever CFM you use for that particular, say, classroom, if we're talking the classroom here, say we use 400 CFM HEPA filtration, that is actually considered ventilation air, clean air that you can add to what you already have there now. So it's any combination of outdoor air, MERV 13 filtration, or HEPA filtration that gets you to clean air.
Thank you. So let me ask one more question. I'm sorry. First of all, I'm happy we got to talk about MERV 13 filters again. I've missed that. But when you're testing the system, you're saying that our systems can provide 32 cubic feet per minute per occupant. Is that with the windows open, or is that just the system itself with the windows being additional?
Windows closed. That's what their capabilities are.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Right. Just to reiterate or expand a little bit about it, because I took a look at the reports. So the typical classrooms that we have with the univentilator system in there and the square footage and the number of students that we have in there, we're at 32 CFM without the windows being open. When the windows are open, we're beyond 32 CFM. And there are other rooms in the building that are not typically classrooms that might be used for PT, OT, SPED, something else beyond a normal classroom day. And Ken's report specifically says that room, to get to 32 CFM, you can only have 6 people or 4 people. It's a smaller room. It doesn't have the same square footage. Maybe it doesn't have a univentilator right in there. It's hooked into a rooftop unit or something along those lines. So as you go through the report, you can see the classrooms are all, because they all have univentilators in them. Just a univentilator in there running the way it's supposed to be with the filtration. We're at 32 with like 14 people in the room based on the average square footage. The other thing to keep in mind is that Ken's right. We can always add, if we felt that maybe 14 wasn't, the right number, or maybe we wanted to go to 18, and that dips us below 32, gets us into the 20s. If we weren't comfortable with that, and you can't open the windows because it's not the right time of year to do so, there are strategies you can use to add filtration that'll get you back up in the 30 or beyond if that's what you think is appropriate for the district. So those are things that we can consider. Right now, if you look at the report and you think about how we're operating, that doesn't seem like we need to worry about that right now, but it is something that we can certainly contemplate as we get farther into the year and think about how the year is going. All right. Any other questions or comments from the school committee? No, seeing none. At this point, I will open it up to public input. If anybody would like to have any comments or questions that can be directed towards Ken or towards the administration of the school committee regarding this report. Dorothy, I think I see one hand up.
There we go. Yeah. Matthew Ridge, please state your name, your street, and ask your question, please.
Matthew Ridge, Great Road. Got a quick question about this. Is that you said with the windows open, it's over 32C. There are classes, as you said, that are smaller that will only be allowed to have a limited amount of personnel or children in the classroom at any given time. What is the future for those rooms when winter does come around? Because what's going to end up happening is that there are children in some of these classrooms right now that are over the four to six, and we need to know ultimately are our children going to be separated in another classroom? Are they going to be told you got to go home? How are we going to handle this?
So
my evaluation did not include windows being open. So my entire evaluation was based on what the units were capable of providing with the windows closed, because ultimately that's what you are going to be operating at once we get into a winter degree day, because the units themselves won't be able to properly heat the space if we're over ventilating the space. So my evaluation is based on the worst case scenario of that unit on a 0 degree day with the windows closed.
And Matthew, to your point, there are only a few rooms in each building that we have to consider this. And now that we have this report in hand, we can look at each of those rooms and see what the maximum occupation in the room is to stay at 32. There are no, I didn't get a chance to look at the report in depth. I took a decent look at it. And as far as we can tell, there are no rooms where we wouldn't be at the 32 CFM right now, based on the square footage and the occupancy that Ken is recommending. If we were, we would either limit the occupants to the number that was cited by BLW Engineering to make sure that we're there, or we can add filtration and then that would allow us to increase the occupancy in that particular square footage. So there are strategies now that we have this report in hand. We can break it down and go room by room and come up with the optimal number to be in there, either with or without additional filtration.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? I'm sorry, Matthew, were you going?
No, go ahead.
Well, I just got a follow-up question. You explained how how Brookline came to the 32. It seems like that's by far the gold standard. I'm in favor of using it. Are there other reasons besides trusting Brookline why we should treat 32 as the number?
I think, I've just been trying to err on the side of caution. So I think, especially where you have the opportunity here to comply with that guideline, based on your school size, you're already, based on the school population, you're already on reduced classroom sizes versus most other school districts. In the hybrid model, you're reducing it even further, so that if you can achieve the 32 CFM per person, why not, right? So, the other thing to keep in mind too is there's other spaces in the building that have tremendous outdoor air capabilities that if you wanted to utilize as classrooms, the library, the cafeteria, the gymnasium, the auditorium, they have tremendous outdoor air capabilities if you wanted to use those as, overflow spaces as well. But, I think, you're in a position to utilize that higher value and feel, I guess, safer, is the best way to say it.
I agree, and I appreciate you taking that high standard and running with it.
Are you all set, Matthew Ridge?
Yep, I'm all set for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Brad's Galaxy, please state your name and your street and ask your question, please.
Hi, my name is Brad Lang, 76 New Estate Road. And my question is, based on what you were saying, how are you judging whether on these units it's either recirculated air or it's fresh air coming in? Let's say the fresh air damper or the mixing air damper malfunctions. How are the custodians or whoever is monitoring these systems going to know that without physically going to each unit? And
So so all the schools have a building management system, so they can actually see the how each component in each building is operating, and they should get alarms through that system to whether it's the head end, or I'm not sure how it's set up, whether they get text or phone calls. But it is alarmed. So if you have a failure like that and you're not getting in a damper fail, it will be notified. Someone will be notified.
okay. And one other question I had was the nurse's office. Has the return vents or exhaust, if they've been tied into ERUs, have they been disconnected off of the other off of the units and add a different type of exhaust to exhaust like out the window, just in case somebody's showing symptoms and you don't know if they've been tested positive? You don't want to have, if they're in an isolation room, you do not want to have them breathing with air going back into the system.
Yeah, so there's different requirements for the isolation rooms, and typically each nurse's area is served by its own separate unit ventilator, and it is a common exhaust system, but it is exhaust, so it's not being recirculated; it's just going outside the building.
Okay, because the only problem with that is if the fan goes down and it takes 2 days to go get a fan and put it in, what's going to happen is if it's in a common exhaust, that's going to potentially go back into a different room.
I mean, I think I think everyone's in the same position in that they're going to be, vigilant in how these systems are monitored, and I think each school is going to have some type of protocol put in place where that, system failures or equipment failures are going to be prioritized, and immediate alternate methods or placements are going to be put in place. I think an exhaust fan fails, someone's going to know about it, and the appropriate people are going to have to take action and modify how the school is operating.
Okay, my last question is just for Mr. Fontanella. Those reports, are they online under the packets? I can download them off the website.
You can download the packet, and they'll be right in there.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. Anybody else?
I don't see any other questions. No more raised hands.
All right. Ken, again, we'd like to thank you for your help, and we appreciate it. And we'll let you know if we have any questions or
anything further. Let me know. I'm happy to help out.
All right. Yes, awesome. Thank you.
Ken. Thank you, Ken.
All right. Next on presentations is our public health metrics update. We did last week put a page up on our website where these reports are available. They're PDF files, and we'll continue to roll them up there week by week. This one that we have this week, and again, I would like to give a shout out to Katrina Hagberg, who's been helping us out with this. It's been a much better report and analysis since she got involved. You can see on the second slide the towns that we've been talking about all summer and how we break them out into different geographical belts that start in Littleton and then go outward. And you can see the classic drawing of the circles, the bullseye of Littleton going out into the 495 belt and beyond. Talk about the thresholds. DESE has threshold for average cases per day per 100,000 people. If you are less than 4 cases per day per 100,000 people, you're in green. If you're between 4 and 8, you are in yellow. And if you are greater than 8 cases per day per 100,000 residents, you are in red. And then the other threshold we used is from the Harvard Global Health Institute, the testing positivity threshold. is a good sign when you are below 3% in terms of testing positivity. You can see in the first table here that we're presenting, Littleton right now is at 2.79 daily cases per 100,000 residents. Our average cases per day over the last 14 days in actuality is 0.29, but for comparison purposes, we extrapolate that out to per 100,000 residents. So we are at 2.79. That is still in the green. It is trending a little higher over the last couple of weeks, but still well underneath the threshold. Our contiguous communities are at 2.5, although Westford went into the yellow for the first time since we started doing this report this week. And then you can see in the next level of towns, Chelmsford is yellow, but overall the contiguous communities plus is at 2.76. The Route 495 belt communities that we use has ticked up into the yellow for the first time since we started doing this report. They are just over that threshold of green of 4 and are at 4.12. Middlesex County has been yellow for a little while now at 4.5 cases per 100,000. And the Commonwealth is at 5 cases per 100,000. And you can see in the next slide, which is breaking out the 495 communities, you can see there are more towns listed, just breaking them out. You can see there are actually some reds. Marlborough and Tingsboro are in the red. And the overall just yellow for that 495 belt. You can see here that the just a summary here, the average daily cases for Littleton is at 2.8, and it fluctuates in between 2.8 and 2.5 for the surrounding communities. As we get farther out into 495 in Middlesex County in the state, we get up into the 3s and the 4s per 100,000. This chart just shows the trend. You can see over the past couple of weeks that everybody is running a little bit higher. We don't think, Katrina sent us her summary and her thought that this isn't relative to schools reopening because this is from data from 2 weeks. We've only been open for a little over a week. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks if this levels off or drops or continues to rise. In terms of percent positivity, Littleton is at 0.8, below that 3% threshold. The border communities are right there with us at 0.6 and 0.7. The 495 belt is actually over 1, but in Middlesex County and the state, they are under 1% for positivity threshold. That has actually held steady, even though the number of cases has been rising in the state. Average daily cases, the testing positivity has remained pretty constant. You can here to see a graph representation of that, and everybody holding steady at around or below 1, with the exception of Route 495 is just over 1. This is just a summary. Littleton is green. We have had 4 cases in the last 14 days. Our average daily cases per 100,000 is 2.9, so that keeps us in the green. Our percent positivity has been rising a little bit, but is well under the threshold of 3 at 0.8. The border and surrounding communities are still green. There are some communities that have moved into the yellow in our contiguous communities, and there are some red in the 495. Middlesex and the state remain in yellow right now. So that's the update on that. Any questions or comments? Timlin?
So I see when we move to outside in our things, we have Tingsboro is in the red. And I know that we had received an email about that and other parents have asked me. I know Tingsboro is on our list of our pod that we're playing for high school sports.
Yep.
I know Mike Lynn, I know he's not here tonight, but if Dr. Harrington or you or someone could talk about that, because parents have been asking about what they're going to do about sports.
Right. The athletic directors and principals, even before Tingsboro was in the red, they had already anticipated that was a situation that might occur in any community. So if a community is in the red, their games will not be played until they are out of the red. We have not started games yet. I think our first games are the first week in October.
Yes.
I think they're like October 4th or 5th.
Yep.
So no issues yet in terms of actually playing anyone. So we will continue to monitor Tingsboro, but that is a policy that was set even before.
I just wanted
Tingsboro got
to
into
reiterate it
Yeah.
because the parents have been emailing myself also and asking.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on that? No. All right. At this point, we're at the second part of the meeting for input from interested citizens. Is there anyone that wants to bring up any issues with the school committee?
No more questions.
All right. All right. We still are in the beginning of the school year, so no real work on subcommittees. So we'll just skip past that. We already had our executive session, so we don't need one now. If there's any.
I just have one more question. I had a parent email me right before this, and I meant to ask at the beginning. I had a parent email me, and I'm not sure why me, why not you guys, but where I guess we're not saying the Pledge of Allegiance for class. I don't know. My kids are in their rooms doing their work. So I'm just wondering, they asked why we're not. If anybody can address that for them.
Principals want to
Yeah, I'll be happy to chime in at the high school.
Thank
Timlin, yeah, we'll take a look at, yeah, I think it was sort of just one of the things about, we don't have our daily advisory. So at the high school, that sort of threw us off probably a little bit. We made an adjustment there. We have an extended advisory on Wednesday. It's typically done during our daily advisory / homeroom, where we have that 5-minute spot. We can make an adjustment for that. I think that's an easy fix for us to correct and be compliant with the statute.
Okay, thank you. That's all I just wanted to ask for them. Thanks.
All right. All right. Anything else?
Don't believe so.
All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Like, well, nobody wants to.
I just need a second. Thank you. All right. Motion made in second. I'll take a roll call vote. Timlin?
Timlin Rossius, yes.
Justin?
Justin McCarthy, yes.
Brad?
Brad Austin, yes.
Matt?
Matt Hunt, yes.
And Mike Fontella votes yes as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dorothy and LCTV and Bettina for taking the minutes. Appreciate it. And we will see you all soon enough. Thank you.
Thank you.